Today I'd like to continue our journey in chapter 12 of the Gospel of Matthew. We've been looking at the section in chapter 12 that talks about that sin against the Holy Spirit and the idea of how can we be forgiven by God if we do not accept forgiveness, if we do not acknowledge that we've done something wrong. It's going to be very hard for God, obviously, to forgive us. In verse 32 of chapter 12, continuing with that theme, it says, "And whoever speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven. But whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, either in this age or in the age to come." So obviously they cannot be forgiven because of their refusal to accept forgiveness. So this gift of forgiveness that comes to us through Jesus, through the Holy Spirit, it's difficult for us to enter into this relationship if we refuse to accept forgiveness, if we refuse to acknowledge our need to be forgiven. Then how is it possible for us to accept forgiveness? So that would be the sin against the Holy Spirit. The next section in chapter 12 gets into really an age-old dilemma that we have in terms of, well, how do we recognize that we are really and truly living the Christian life? And many of us ponder that question. Well, am I really truly following Jesus? Or am I following myself and my own desires? How do I know that I'm truly following Jesus? So Jesus addresses this issue in chapter 12. And starting at verse 33, Jesus says, "Either declare the tree good, and its fruit is good, or declare the tree rotten, and its fruit is rotten. For a tree is known by its fruit." So you're looking at these trees, and you're trying to determine, is that tree a good tree? And if it is a good tree, good fruit will come forward. But if it's a rotten tree, then there's going to be no good fruit out of that tree. So Jesus is really kind of following up that whole controversy he had about the demons and the driving out of the demons. So he's saying if the driving out of the demons, the fruit is good, then the person, the tree, must be good as well. So if something good is happening, this demon is leaving this person, obviously that's going to be a good thing. The person is going to have to deal with that demon again. It's a wonderful thing. That's a positive. That's good. We should be rejoicing at that. So if somebody is good and their intention is good, then coming forward from that person is going to be very, very good fruit. And that's how we know that we're following Jesus. We reflect each day and say, well, was there some good fruit this day from my actions in following Jesus? Did I increase love in the world? Did I help somebody? Did I encourage somebody? Did I support somebody? Did I reach out to them? That is the good fruit that we look for in a person's life. And if you're producing that good fruit, you truly are following Jesus. So in verse 34, then Jesus says, "You brood of vipers, how can you say good things when you are evil? For from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks." Jesus is holding some of his opponents to task here. He's saying, not such a nice name about them. You brood of vipers. You really are these snakes who are trying to be very destructive. You're not really helping the situation. Where's your good fruit? What's happening to you? Think about it. So you really are not saying good things, because really the tree is evil. And so you're not able to enter into the good and say good things. And then Jesus says, for from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. So what is in your heart? Are you really seeking God? If you were truly seeking God, you would see that what I am doing is from God. But if you're just concerned about your power, your prestige, your position, being honored by others, those are your main concerns. And, there's bad stuff in your heart. You're thinking more of yourself than of God, than of your neighbor, of helping others. And if that is the case, good will not come forth from you. So the Pharisees, at least, again, when we use the term Pharisees, again, the caution, we're talking about a small group here who is opposed to Jesus. The Pharisees cannot admit that Jesus is good. With this small group that wants to hold on to the power, they're evil. And the words that proceed from evil hearts cannot be good. That heart is evil. If it's just thinking of itself, good will not come forth. The heart in the Bible is generally not the organ of sentiments, the way we speak of it today. Speak of the heart as full of that emotion of love and feeling. But really, it is the organ of both the mind and sentiments. So there's no separation here. Very interesting way that the Hebrew tradition would speak of the heart. Very different from us. We say, oh, the person has a good heart. Well, the mind is also part of the heart in terms of the Jewish expression here. That from the heart comes your thoughts as well as your sentiments. So the mind and the feeling are in balance here. It's not a question of either or one being better than the other. Both are necessary and important and significant, and both, in terms of the heart, work together. So in verse 35, then Jesus says, a good person brings forth good out of a store of goodness, but an evil person brings forth evil out of a store of evil. Which is a great image for us to reflect on. So there is this store of goodness that we are trying to build up. So all of those actions that we do, we try to help others and make a difference in the world, we're building up that store of goodness. And so we can bring forth good out of that store. Because of all of the actions that we've done, all the efforts that we've made, all of the prayers that we have said, all of our striving to do good, that creates a tremendous store. And it's a beautiful image when you think of it. When you go into a store and you see a multiplicity of goods and you're like overwhelmed. But you as well are building up a store of goodness. Or, if we become selfish, it can become a store of evil. So Jesus is telling us that we can build it up. We can make that store of goodness. It might seem that all of these actions are small or trivial. Where are they leading? Where are they going? Jesus, no, you're building something up here. You're creating something, and it is good. It is a store of goodness. And then Jesus says in verse 36, I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will render an account for every careless word they speak. Wow. Again, Jesus is taking us back, this day of judgment. We have to render an account for every careless word we speak. We always say we should watch our words, we should be careful about our words. Our words can hurt. Our words can do a lot of damage. Our words can cause a lot of evil. Or, at the same time, our words can build others up. and lead others to experience a deeper relationship with their God. We can lead them to God, lead them to goodness. So this is our challenge. Am I doing that which is good? Because every single word I say, I have to render an account of. You might be overwhelmed and say, oh my goodness, look at all the words I say every day. I've got to render an account of them. But it's always wise to be careful with our words, to be cautious with our words. We always think of that maxim, think before you speak, but it's a good thing to reflect upon, to be careful. I was at one of our adult faith formation classes I was doing, and one of the gentlemen had a very good piece of advice. He said, my father told me before I say anything, if I'm going to react with anger, count to 10. And I think that's good advice. Not that I always follow it. Sometimes I say things without counting to 10. Maybe I only get as far as 1 or 2. But good advice so that we don't say words and regret them later on and hurt somebody, do damage with our words. And then in verse 37, Jesus says, by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. So we can be acquitted by our words or condemned by our words. That's how important those words are. If on the day of judgment, people will be held accountable for even their careless words, the vicious accusations of this small group of Pharisees that are attacking Jesus will surely lead to their condemnation, because why are they attacking Jesus? Jesus has done nothing wrong. Jesus has done a healing. He's helped somebody. So why would you ever attack somebody who is helping other people? And that's the dilemma that this group that is attacking Jesus is faced with. Because from the good tree comes the good fruit.